Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we've got some fun battles from the Open Great League as a trainer goes hunting for TINKATON with a very unexpected Pokemon, Shadow Golbat. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Max Prasad, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Shadow Golbat did infamously get nerfed this past September, but due to that flying poison typing, it's a complete wall to the standard TINKATON moveset of Play Rough and Bulldoze. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at this anti-meta Pokemon battling at leaderboard Elo in the Great League. Hopping into the first match, and target has immediately been acquired, Shadow Golbat into TINKATON. TINKATON staying in this matchup, just looking to fire off a Bulldoze. Bulldoze is going to apply a debuff onto the Golbat. Golbat farming up. We're going to see another Bulldoze thrown by the TINKATON, but there's still just not a lot they can do even with getting that first debuff. Shadow Golbat has farmed up quite a bit of energy, full setting the Shadow Ball, but the opponent will commit the shield. Golbat is going to win the CMP tie over TINKATON. This Shadow Ball is going to connect, getting TINKATON deep into the red. Golbat's still not going to be knocked out here. Now we're going to see an aggressive pivot into Shadow Sableye. Opponent realizes they're getting farmed down. They pivot out into a Azumarill, but they're down energy and down a shield, so Shadow Sableye is about to be trouble. Sableye always going to be committing the shield here as it can look to massively overfarm before looking to pick up a knockout blow with Power Gem. Power Gem won't quite KO here, but the Shadow Claws after will. So Azumarill is forced to burn a shield if they want this energy. But we're actually going to see a beautiful switch at a catch. Save the Golbat from earlier, getting the catch now. And now the Shadow Sableye has an entire Power Gem available. In comes the Sableye. Sableye farms up a ton. There's a catch attempt from the opponent. They have their own Sableye in the back. And unfortunately, their Sableye is just going to get cleanly KO'd by the back-to-back foul plays. Pangoro, never a big fan of going up against Fairy-type Pokemon, but in this instance, the Azumarill, it's already taken just way too much damage, so Pangoro will very comfortably be able to shield and secure the victory here. Pangoro going for a pretty significant overfarm as well, just to show a little bit of dominance. Close combat, KOs Azumarill, and that's a good game. We move to game number 2, Shadow Golbat leading into Claydol. Claydol staying in this matchup. Claydol is going to strike first with a Rock Tomb. Golbat choosing to let this go. So Max must be pretty familiar with the matchup, knowing he can survive. There's going to be an aggressive pivot into the Shadow Sableye, and Sableye will immediately be met with a simultaneous switch into Credilli. Sableye throwing instantly here on the CMP tie. Opponent is going to commit the shield as they look to apply a debuff with Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb does quite a bit of damage. Sableye going to go for a foul play. Foul play, even at -1, will still add up onto Credilli. Credilli now into the yellow. Credilli looking to overfarm. Nice overfarm there by the opponent, trying to maximize energy gains. Rock Tomb will pick up the KO, and now it's going to be the Pangoro show. In comes Pangoro. Pangoro, I mean, this is probably a Rock Tomb, right? He's thinking about it. He shields, and it is going to be a Rock Tomb in the back. Now that's a Pokemon you're really hoping to see. It's Morpeko. Morpeko is going to win the CMP tie over Pangoro. They're going to bait with the Psychic Fangs, applying that debuff onto Pangoro. We're going to see an undercharge on this close combat. It still KOs. Back in comes the Claydol. Claydol going to be met with the Night Slash. Night Slash into the Claydol is going to be no shielded. This Pangoro is so heavily debuffed, but it will make it to another Night Slash. This will force the shield, and if they shield, there's the combo play. The Shadow Golbat saved the energy from earlier. Shadow Ball KOs the Claydol. All that's left is Credilli. They're not bullets eating down, and that's going to be a win. We move to game number 3, Shadow Golbat into Talonflame. This is not a good matchup for the Golbat. Golbat's typing can make it a bit interesting, but what keeps it firmly in Spice territory rather than a meta Pokemon is its lack of pacing. We do actually see a shield from the opponent. Unfamiliar with Golbat's new slower pacing, they shield what could have only been a Poison Fang. And now Sableye will be able to outpace in this matchup, firing off this foul play, and Talonflame will commit the shield. The opponent throwing on alignment, giving a free Shadow Claw to the Sableye. Sableye more than happy to take the free energy. Opponent will need to pivot out here if they want to save it, and they do. Gastrodon Oh my goodness, we're now going to see back-to-back foul plays reached by the Sableye. Foul play number 1 is going to connect, and we see a catch. Switching out, making the catch onto the Golbat. Golbat going to try and make a move. Gastrodon will be forced to throw energy here. So Gastrodon has to waste 70 energy getting rid of this Golbat. And now in comes Pangoro. Pangoro looking for the Karate Chop down, but the Gastrodon is too bulky, hanging on very low HP. Body Slam will do sizable damage to Pangoro. In the back, it's Guzzlord, and this game is over. The back-to-back close combats are reached. The Talonflame's low enough that it's going to get KO'd by the close combat. Back in comes the Guzzlord. Guzzlord getting a second close combat here. That's going to be a one-hit KO as well, and that's going to be a win. Tough lead in the next match. Shadow Golbat into Shadow Drapion. Considering there's also a Sableye on the team, this is an absolute nightmare start for this game. We're going to see Crunch do huge damage. The best case as Golbat is you basically just want to try and soft lose this matchup. Hope the opponent does not invest into the Drapion, and they do not. Drapion takes huge damage from Shadow Ball, and now hopefully with that Drapion out of the way, the Sableye can put in work in the end game. Unfortunately, Drapion would not get farmed down there. This forces Pangoro to fire off a Night Slash to pick up the knockout, and Pangoro does not exit with energy. There's Jump Pluff in the back, and this seems so doomed. Gonna fire off the Night Slash. Night Slash is gonna connect. We now see the switch to the Shadow Sableye, and Sableye is gonna go for the foul play. Foul play, of course, not gonna knock out, but the goal is just damage over time. The opponent will end up committing the shield. Sableye with a tough call to make, lets it go, calling the Aerial Ace bait in the back. What is this doing here? We're seeing a Golbat from previous seasons. This trader's running a Trevenant. Trevenant is just going to be fully sacrificed. Back in comes the Jump Pluff. The opponent got such little value out of that Trevenant. I think that may have actually turned the tides of this game, because as Sableye will grab the final shield with this foul play, the opponent with the Shadow Claws gets closer and closer to close combat range. Pangoro, oh, they get the double up, but Pangoro has the shield and the close combat. So this should be a CMP tie, and Pangoro's gonna win it. Close combat into the Jump Pluff. Jump Pluff survives with 1 HP remaining, but there's more than 1 HP on the Sableye, which means this game will be a win. Opponent realizes it, and they will resign the match. We move to the next game, Shadow Golbat into Claydol. We've seen before that Claydol does actually get outpaced here, but we're going to see a safe switch by the opponent, sending in Charjabug. No direct answer to a Charjabug switching, gonna soften it up with a Poison Fang and send in Sableye. Sableye going to be met with quite a few X-Scissors in this matchup. X-Scissor number 1 is gonna connect. Sableye, unable to survive X-Scissor number 2, will be forced to burn a shield and commit to an aggressive Shadow Claw farm down. Ideally, you want 3 claws to KO here, and they do. Why that's important, as unfortunately we see TINKATON here, but why 3 KOing is important is the second Volt Switch will not register. But all this Sableye energy goes nowhere into the TINKATON. The opponent was ABA weak to the Golbat, but they've ended up playing this perfectly, where now TINKATON has a ton of energy. You're forced to send in the Golbat, and Pangoro is going to need to put in so much work in the endgame. Play Rough is going to connect. Anticipating the switch out is Max, and he sends Pangoro into the Claydol. But down a shield, and with 1 Night Slash not KOing, I think Max is in trouble. The opponent pivoted out from a point of weakness, bluffing that they were strong in the back, and the bluff worked, as unfortunately they were able to get the advantage that they needed to be able to win this game. Night Slash is going to be shielded. Another Night Slash reached by the Pangoro. I think Pangoro's too low. 3 Mud Slaps should knock out here. Pangoro stays in. Opponent switches too early, and that allows Pangoro to bank the move. Suddenly, a win con appears. The miscount by the opponent. This Poison Fang needs the KO. TINKATON. No, it survives. And this, unfortunately, will be a loss. The opponent almost gave a win con by switching out too early, but the TINKATON survives the Poison Fang, and the opponent escapes with a win. Shadow Golbat into Blastoise. We're going to see a safe switch into Shadow Sableye. Shadow Sableye, it looks like the opponent actually paused for a turn there at the start, so Sableye, not behind a turn, is able to throw on 6, and it ends up being a CMP tie. 1 non-Shadow Hydro Cannon will not knock out, so Sableye is going to no shield, and Sableye will be able to outpace, make it to the foul play, and apply the first shield pressure of the match onto the opponent. Blastoise is going to bank the energy. Out comes Credilli. Credilli is going to be met with a foul play. Since the opponent stayed in for so long, Switch Clock is available. In comes Pangoro, and Pangoro is going to call the Rock Tomb bait. Last time in this situation, it got Rock Tomb, but this opponent does not bait. They full send the Grass Knot, and Pangoro loses so much of its remaining health. Night Slash into Credilli is going to pick up the KO and get the boost as well. Pangoro off to the races here. It's going to be Jump Bluff, and this is a double boosted close combat. I know it's resisted, but it's not going to look resisted. Oh my goodness, Jump Bluff gets absolutely rocked. Golbat right where it wants to be, up a shield. There's the switch into the Blastoise, and a devastating end game catch by Max, slamming the door on the opponent's hopes of winning this game. Blastoise makes one final move, but we are going to see the shield from Golbat. Golbat is going to get the farm down. There's not much a Jump Bluff can do, and the opponent will resign the match. Terrible lead, leading Shadow Golbat into Shadow Lapras. The save switch to the Shadow Sableye, opponent staying in here, and we're gonna see the opponent actually strike first with a Sparkling Aria. Shadow on Shadow, this is gonna hurt. Sableye gets absolutely rocked. Sableye farming up a ton of energy, no baits here, going straight for the Power Gem. Does the opponent respect the damage? Yes, they do. They will commit the shield and return fire, throwing the Sparkling Aria onto the low health Sableye. Sableye is going to farm up as much as possible here at the back-to-back foul plays. At this health range, foul play should be enough to knock out. The opponent will commit the shield, but Sableye, so spammy. Foul play, winning the CMP tie, knocking out the Lapras, and in comes a Tentacruel. That is not the Pokemon I was expecting to see. Golbat is going to hit the field. Golbat will take a ton of damage from Scald. My guess is this is survivable, but not by much. Golbat gets rocked. We're going to see the Shadow Ball reached. This should be devastating damage onto the Tentacruel. Tentacruel gets KO'd. In the back is going to be a Quagsire, and Pangoro will be able to close out this game in style with a win. Pangoro close combat, absolute devastation to that Quagsire. Quagsire would love to make another move, but they just don't have the health remaining as Pangoro gets the Karate Chop down. What a spicy team from the opponent. Picking up a pretty tough lead in the next match, Shadow Golbat into Shadow Dragonite. Golbat taking so much damage from these Dragon Breaths. Shadow Dragonite, a force to be reckoned with. Poison Fang is going to be shielded up. Golbat. Ooh, we actually see the opponent not commit to a farm down. I was expecting a farm down there, but they were worried about HP remaining on that Dragonite. In comes the Sableye. Opponent is going to pivot out into Lapras, and this is not the typical response to a Sableye switch-in. Sableye going to be no shielding here as the Sparkling Aria is going to come through, and Sableye is going to farm up to the back-to-back Power Gems. So the opponent now in a very difficult position. Power Gem at the Lapras will connect and pick up the knockout. Back in comes the Dragonite. Immediately, Sableye firing off its energy here. The foul play is going to be shielded. There's the switch to Pangoro. Pangoro taking so much damage from these Dragon Breaths. You really have to hope Pangoro will be able to close combat something in this endgame. Pangoro gets the farm down. What's in the back? We'll never know, as the opponent will resign the match. Shadow Golbat. Oh my goodness, Shadow Dragonite again. The back-to-back Dragonite leads. Last one ended up working out pretty nicely. Poison Fang is going to be launched by the Golbat, and we should see an immediate shield from the Dragonite, as Dragonite just cannot afford to lose this health. It looks like this opponent is going to commit to the farm down. So doing what the other opponent did not, in comes a Golisopod counter switch to the Sableye, and Sableye is choosing to no shield. Golisopod Aqua Jet will inflict serious damage onto the Sableye. Sableye farming up and going for the foul play. Foul play will do a lot of damage to the Golisopod here. Golisopod is able to hang on. Fractional HP remaining. Sableye commits the shield, and now Sableye will fire off energy at this Dragonite. Dragonite is going to end up committing the shield. There's the switch to Pangoro, but the Dragonite can just get the two moves. Pangoro calls the bait. It's the Dragon Claw, but that can hardly be called a bait when it does all of Pangoro's health. Pangoro deep into the red. I don't know what it can beat, but it's not a Go-Goat. There's a Go-Goat on my screen, and that is going to be a loss. We hop into the final match, Shadow Golbat into Azumarill. Off to a pretty nice start, but there's an Electrode save switch. The spice at Legend Elo today is amazing. Oh my goodness. Poison Fang is going to connect. There's the switch into the Shadow Sableye. Shadow Sableye going to no shield as the opponent will fire off a Discharge. Shadow Sableye. Not going to play to the CMP tie here. Honestly, I'm not sure who wins the CMP tie. I imagine Electrode could be pretty competitive there since Electrode is not the bulkiest thing around. Back in comes the Azumarill, but Azumarill energy is very scary for this team. Azumarill is up a shield, and it's going to be able to absorb all these hits from the Shadow Sableye. This could be problematic for Max as he looks to close out this final game. There's a switch into the Golbat. Golbat going to let itself get KO'd here. Ice Beam picks up the knockout, and you really have to hope the opponent is weak to Pangoro in the back. Max waiting down the switch timer. In comes Pangoro. It's a Crocodile, but Crocodile has access to super effective Brick Break. And unfortunately, I think this game is just going to be a loss. Pangoro going for the Night Slash. I guess maybe you can try and go for a catch here. The Night Slash is going to be shielded. There's a switch out, but the catch not to be, and the opponent with a Crocodile Electrode backline is going to be able to take the win. What a team from the opponent. All in all, these are some extremely fun games, so many thanks to Max for sending them in. It goes without saying that post-Legend, a lot of people just like to run fun stuff, and Shadow Golbat is one of those picks. Shadow Golbat, unfortunately, had a really nice anti-meta role prior to the Wing Attack nerf, but due to that lack of energy generation, has a bit fallen from the meta. But I do like when battlers can think outside the box. Even a Pokemon that suffered a bit of a fall from grace due to a nerf can still have some spicy value, hard countering the new kid on the block in Tinkaton. So it was pretty fun to see Tinkatons kind of helplessly flail when they saw the Golbat. Like, I believe in that earlier game, it threw 3 bulldozes, even got a debuff, and Golbat was just completely unfazed. I would love to see in the future, even if they don't rebuff Wing Attack, if Golbat in one of these future move updates could be restored to former glory, because I always thought Golbat was a really cool Pokemon. I loved its ability to core break. And on top of that, it's not like it's an absolute bulk monster either. It does require some nuance to play since it is on the Glacier side of things. And it just has some really good charge moves. That's really the only thing that it's missing, would be a viable fast move for it to really return to its former heights. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.